ठीक है, स्टार्ट करते हैं। रिकॉर्डिंग स्टार्ट है। तो आज हम है ना वीक 13 पे डिस्कस करेंगे। वीक 13 जो फंडिंग स्ट्रेटजी के ऊपर बेस्ड है। तो सभी को
Okay.
स्क्रीन दिख रहा होगा तो है ना। तो फर्स्ट पहले फंडिंग स्ट्रेटजी के बारे में पढ़ेंगे, उसके बाद फिर इसके जो
हाँ हाँ
वीडियोस है उसको देख लेंगे।
Okay.
तो जैसे यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है कि जो बाय द एंड ऑफ द वीक व्हाट विल बी एबल टू डू, वी कैन
understand the importance of creating a funding
यस
strategy.
ये
Yes.
हाँ
Okay. Create source and uses of fund. Map appropriate funding options. Okay, so we'll be discussing about funding strategy only, right?
यस यस
And also, I guess, like in this case study, we also be discussing like how can we create a valuation for a business.
हाँ ओके। and here is the steps that what we steps we used for this funding strategy, and identifying funding sources, mapping startup cycles to funding options.
Okay, so let's start from the main slide.
Okay, and now as you can see, this is your funding your venture. There are three questions: where are we now, and where do we want to be, and how do we get there? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, so where are we now means our current position, I think.
I think we are at bootstrap.
Yes. And what about where do we want to be?
So I
I
think
think
it's the future plans. What do we want to do in
uh,
future? How do we want to build the business around the current business?
yes,
And
yes,
how do we want to raise the fund around it?
How much fund we will require?
I think it basically outlines about current position, goals, and financial roadmap.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
In current
Also, you can
position,
say
Right.
the company that the startup is following. Future goals, it describes about the strategic plans startup can make, and
okay,
the strategy, the business strategy that it is following, and funding sources. All these things. I think this slide mainly aims to do,
Yeah.
mainly aims to explain these things.
Yeah.
okay.
Exactly.
Now, as you say, the sources of funds. Now discuss about this.
Yeah. So yeah, sources of funds, like one example can be like angel investors, as we know in Shark Tank. Yeah.
Yeah. They invest in the business by taking the stocks of your business, shares into your business, right now.
Uh, Here are some
And also
and
some
Of funding
and
depend
also
on
at some point
our
of the time, like if we are
strategy.
developing
We are
something,
on.
we sometimes get grants from the college or government. That is the best thing because we don't have to give our share to the government.
Yeah,
yes,
I
yes,
agree with
exactly.
you. Yeah.
We can also use our college for college also support our venture for that.
Bootstrapping is also an option where we use our own money to invest into
Yeah,
market
from
without
friends
giving
and
anyone
Correct.
any
Correct.
Yes,
money.
yes.
Okay,
And if we have much more confidence on about our idea, we can go for debt also because in debt we don't have to give our share and all.
Well, one way could be
Yes.
asking from your friends, relatives, and family is also an option, right?
Yes, asking
Simple.
friends and family is the best option in the starting phase.
Yeah,
But since
Gunjan, I
but
agree
since
with you.
we are working for a company, we have to offer something to our friend or family. Na? Like we should take debt from them or we should offer them stocks. It will come under some things.
No,
but
but bootstrapping
bootstrapping
is also good because
bootstrapping
na I
we
think
don't
there
have
is
to offer
the
our
share of equity
share.
in our hand, right?
No, but for all ventures, it's not necessary that they're working for a company. They might be supplying for other customers, right?
No, but let's say you invest your own money into the ventures and you don't have anyone to go for, and the whole equity share is into your hands. So I think bootstrapping is also good for that reason also.
Yeah,
yeah,
yes,
Yeah, for future purpose also you have shares for your
taking
company.
debt
Yes, yes.
at
Yeah,
early
of
stage
course,
is
of course, in future you can anyways invest to other companies and sell them shares. So I think bootstrapping is good.
okay. Now we should discuss on angels and debt financing. What about this?
Angels are the person who has high net worth and can support any bootstrap ventures.
Basically, there are many angel investors like Y Combinators you might have heard of. Like Sam Altman, who is currently the owner of ChatGPT, used to previously work on Y Combinator is an angel investor which invests in a lot of companies. And
Yes,
there are
yes,
many
exactly.
big angel investors. BlackRock is also one of the venture capitalists, which is also called as an angel investor. So, like, it's also a great company. Like, it's very tough to get investment from those companies.
Also,
Highly
they have
reputable.
their previously established connections, which can help us to
Yeah,
uh,
definitely.
save our time and money.
I think just angel investor are individual person, not a big company like Y Combinator and BlackRock. These are
Yeah,
venture capital firms.
yes. You are right. What I was trying to say is like many combinations of angel investor form a venture capitalist. Like basically,
Yeah,
angel
yeah.
investors are HNIs, basically high network
Ah,
individuals.
yeah. Like Anupam Mittal and all these Shark Tank
Definitely,
individuals
definitely.
are like angel investors.
Since
Okay.
we are talking about angel investors, I would like to add just one point, not a subject related, but I guess Ratan Tata, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala were they're angel investors for almost 12 to 20 years. So many successful entrepreneurships, whoever it is, can consider them as a big angel investor.
Now for debt financing, what we can discuss? Debt financing, equity financial through venture capabilities.
I think it is also helpful, but
Basically,
it
what I
definitely
understand from these terms is basically what debt financing means is they will be giving you money. Like they won't be taking equity share from your company, but they will be giving you money with high interest rates. And like what is equity financing is they will be providing, like you will be providing them with your
Yes,
equity.
yes, Ambuj is absolutely right.
That's what I was
Yeah,
saying, Madhav. I
I
think
agree with this idea. Yeah.
yeah. So these two are the terms like I guess the debt financing and the equity financing related to.
definitely.
Now for this, map up the startup life cycle to funding options. What it
I
Like
think
like
for every we are now at bootstrap stage, so I don't think we need any funding at that stage because
definitely.
I think it is the mapping of what kind of funding you can take at what's
Like
depending on what stage your business is
yeah,
currently
I
Yes,
in.
like
agree
for
with you,
every
Arjit.
stage,
It's basically
different kind of
Yes.
funding would be needed.
how will the startup goes like over the life, like about software development life cycle. So there are phases of it, like how exactly the money will be invested, it will be used
hello?
for the production and
ठीक है.
capitalism of it. So I think that this is what about the startup life cycle is.
I
yeah, and
think it
our
just
venture
says
is too young for that funding and all these things. We should
Definitely.
focus on bootstrap and focus on money from families and friends. Once our startup gets built at certain level, then we can take funding and we get better opportunity from it.
Now here some keywords: pre-seed, seed funding, early stage, growth stage. Uh, read
Basically,
this.
seed funding is something where you test your product by putting some amount of money through investors, a little, not a very big amount of money, but a small amount of money, so you can try and test and get a feedback from the customer whether you should continue the business or
also
not.
angel investors are the wealthy people who used to invest their money in the businesses so that they can grow it. So they want to just invest so that they also take some equity at times.
So I think this just says that in the initial stage we can look for like pre-seed stage we can look for bootstrapping as an option. Then eventually we can go for seed funding or angel investing, and at an early stage we can move to venture capitals for in exchange for equity or as well. and then the growth stage, then we can look to move to some of the banks for debts and likewise.
I think liquidity stage refers to when our equity gets converted into cash. For example, one of the best example is IPO through initial public offerings, like when the company is listed in stock market at that time.
Now for this funding plan, sources and uses of funds.
And the resources for funding can be personal savings, like selling the assets of your real estate assets. By keeping your emergency fund aside, you can just put your personal savings in that. Yeah, you can use business or trade credit, um, or customer cash advances also you can use for the sources of your funding. That's what the slide basically implies to say.
Yeah, I think we can move on from this slide.
So valuation.
Yes, we can discuss on this.
I think valuation is the value what how much your company value right now. So or in future, so based on what the investor invest on your
Yeah,
businesses.
definitely. Basically, the valuation is the total sum of money a company owns. Basically, it's not just the sum of money. It's basically how what exactly the value of the company is, and as if you have seen in Shark Tank, like they offer the equity of the company at a certain amount of valuation. So the equity division is mostly based on like what are the profits of company and what are the losses and what are the assets and abilities of the company. In that thing, the valuation is based on.
I think
To
below there
summarize
is
the valuation, I would like to tell that the valuation is the total worth of a company or assets it owns. Basically, it helps investor to value the company that at what valuation they have to put the money.
Correctly, you said that before getting any investment, we must get a good valuation of of our company. And to determine the valuation of our company, there are various ways. Like we can determine it by the current profit that our company is generating, the prediction or the orders in our hand what our company has. And someone also said that it is the total worth combining all the assets, all the machineries, and all the raw materials, goods, everything. So that is kind of puts the value of our company.
But for valuation of company of any company, there should be some comparable value, right? For comparison it with any other companies. So then only we can evaluate our company or any company with the other standard company. So I guess there should be some standard method, standard way to evaluate any of the companies.
Divya, you are absolutely right. I think one of the major step is like value. It is dependent on number of sales. Like if a company is doing 20 crore sales and the multiple is like in the sector is 5x multiple, then it will be value for 100 crore. For every domain like clothing brand or something else like e-commerce to e-commerce, there is different multiple going on in the current market.
Yeah,
Right. There are a few parameters which everyone should look to determine the valuation, like EBITDA, profit, number of sales, and what is the current debt of the company. All this should be determined before getting the true valuation of a company.
yeah, exactly. Here, valuation is the process of determining the current worth of business. We can say like this. And business valuation is conducted by company looking the sales of company. This is the main factors. How
I think
we can.
there are another approaches beyond the monetary, such as like brand
Yes.
strength, uh, if company has some IP property like patent trademarks and what is position in its market, all these things also counts in a valuation. And in monetary we have two three methods like price to earning ratio. We can also take price to sales ratio, what are the total number of sales company is generating, and price to book ratio which we can in Ola Uber company, like what is the total booking value of the per customer, and all these methods we can use to find the total valuation of company.
Basically, like what is the price after the tax, right? So majorly it is compared on that terms.
Okay, now further income-based approach, and now move towards the additional resources. I think now what we can discuss on call to action.
So if we talk about our startups, I think on identifying the funding option, our is a bootstrap is the current stage of our startup. So
I think we had already done in our like in assignment in our quiz
yeah,
of
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
We did it.
I think
Okay.
we
Okay.
can move
Now
on.
we move on the further.
Yeah.
Next slide.
Yes, yes.
Hello, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the case about Hardex's VC and actually understood a lot of references about how successful entrepreneurs ended up raising their first check. And today I'm very delighted to bring you Vatsal, who leads the Chief Technology Officer, and leads all the tech initiatives, scouting initiatives, and also closing initiatives at 100x. And I'm very delighted to uncover a lot of secrets from the investor's perspective. Some questions which I'm sure a lot of you guys have, that how do you raise the first check? How do you get into the eyes of an investor? So thank you so much, Vatsal, for joining in and giving out the time to ensure that there are a lot of student entrepreneurs in the next coming years who are going to pitch to you.
So glad to be here. Thank you so much, Omkar, for having me, and thanks to the Vadmani Foundation for setting this up.
Perfect. Let's start it off right off the bat. I'm pretty sure that you must be looking at hundreds or thousands of pitches every day, right? How do you actually, on a very elementary level, segregate a good pitch from a bad pitch which comes to you virtually, right? Over maybe an email, WhatsApp, or a LinkedIn message. That how do you segregate a good pitch from a bad pitch?
So the stage at which we are, right? We have to be cognizant that founders may not be as good at pitching, right? So ideally, what we are looking for is more: is there an opportunity or not, right? But maybe a step further beyond us, what differentiates a good pitch from a bad pitch is being succinct. Having a very clear hypothesis, a very specific hypothesis, and being able to communicate it as succinctly and as sweetly as possible. So, for example, let's say we're talking about Beehive. Oh, let me take another example. Let me take the example of Swiggy, which is more commonplace and people will know more about. So Swiggy could have initially been a business like Dunzo. It could have been a business like Ropers. It could have been a business like Delivery. And the core of their business is a delivery person on a scooter with a routing algorithm. but they chose to be focused only on food delivery, right? And even then, early days, they focused only on Koramangala, which is a small district in Bangalore, right? They executed only in Koramangala, and then they raised on the base of that to replicate that execution to the rest of the city, then to a couple more cities, and so on and so forth. They scaled food delivery, and then they focused on other parts of the business, right, like Instamart, etc. So that focus from the beginning is very critical, right? Having a very clear focus hypothesis, even though you know, okay, I'm gonna be experimenting. It's not necessary that the hypothesis you have in mind is the one you end up with, or it even turns out to be true. That's why it's a hypothesis, right? But giving a specific hypothesis from the beginning will help the investor know exactly where your money is going, right? It's a difference between somebody's got to shoot a target now. You know that they're gonna spin around and try to shoot blankly, and you hope they win. Or you know, okay, they're gonna take aim, they're gonna focus, they're gonna try to shoot. If it doesn't work, they'll recalibrate their aim, right? So as an investor, you want the second one, right? Because resources are limited. So, sorry, just to summarize again, succinct hypothesis, and then obviously telling the right story around it, right? Don't go into too much context. Many founders tend to spend half the pitch talking about giving context. Oh, it's such a big opportunity, but they never talk about the solution or what they're doing, how they're solving. Many small things, right? They don't talk about the team. They don't highlight your strengths. They don't talk about competition, how your positioning is different, small things, right? I think the majority, like I said, to summarize, would be a clear hypothesis. If you're able to communicate well, then it's 70% of the job done.
Okay, now discuss on this that here they were discussing about the good pitch and bad pitch. Now, for good pitch, we can say that good pitch is a concise. It should be concise. It should be clear, and it should be directly to the answer to the investor's main questions. So, and for bad pitch, they said that on the other hand, the bad pitch is often lacks focus and depth, and some that not clearing the defining the problem, failing communication market size. So these are the lacks in the bad speech. Now you also can discuss on this.
I think good pitch just can be said as uh, giving more information and detailed information in very few words or as little as possible.
The difference between a
Basically,
successful
he
and
said like giving
unsuccessful
a
pitch
clear
is
hypothesis is a major factor, right? Not talking much more about describing about the like description, not giving the description just, but more about what is the solution, how are they different from their competitors, what makes them different, and other factors which makes basically what their solution is about.
Right, focusing on a clear and defined solution is very critical in grabbing a good investment. So, and so investors should get to know about your company very clearly from your hypothesis.
Basically, he also said that the founders may not always excel at pitching, but the investors look for a potential in the business rather than the pitch itself. So the business must be the better side rather than the pitch.
We can also use different canvases which we have learned earlier, like lean canvas, problem statement canvas, and value proposition canvas for pitching to the investors. And basically we should be clear about what problem we are solving and what solution which we are offering.
Okay, now let us move to the further video.
When market size is possibly the thing what gets the investors ears up, right? It can be a known fact or it can be a discoverable fact from the investors. Now, when we're talking about solution, and this is actually the reference to the LinkedIn post what you ended up putting, that it's, even if it is a difficult problem, what a lot of folks are planning to solve, does the investor also look at the tenacity of the entrepreneurs? So maybe they're solving the right problem. They might not have the solution right now, but should the investors back them if they see a sign of that whether they are planning to iterate or not? Or maybe wait it out so that the entrepreneur by themselves are able to at least solve say 5-10% of that problem.
For sure. So I think there's two questions here. One is on the market, how important is the market, and how important is it to tell the right story of the market, and how to tell it. The second part we talked about is if the market is difficult, then do investors back on the basis of how it is. Let me take the second one first. So yes, the answer to that is a simple yes, but those would be edge cases, right? The idea is the founder should be able to drive extreme conviction that this person will figure something out, right? That they'll be able, if not in this opportunity, they'll do something. If they have enough money, that will give them the time to keep building hypotheses, to keep experimenting, to find PMF, and then in the end scale at some point in time. But that would happen maybe 1 in 10 founders, right, with some level of industry experience or some level of charisma, which is Steve Jobs level, or which you'll never see. For the rest, we need to go prepare, and we need to go with the correct market, right? And the reason it becomes tough, right, is as an investor, especially early on, either, like I said, you have a clear hypothesis that you can showcase, or you showcase, okay, I have this hypothesis, but in the end, I'm going to be able to execute whatever is at hand, and I'm going to find something out, right? I'm going to do something. If this is not possible, it's not provable is the right word, I think. Right? If it's tough for you to prove, even though you know you are, but you just never had those laurels, right? You're not a Stanford graduate, right? Then it's going to be tougher for you to, right? Comparatively, if you come with a clear hypothesis which you can say is provable, then the founder will take investor will take a bet on the hypothesis. Saying, okay, this founder studied it thoroughly, he knows it, and he can. It's plausible is the word, right? It's plausibly possible. So then they will take a bet on that hypothesis. So that's on the part of if the market is bad, you can bet on the market. But coming back to how important the market is, I think the reason market makes a big difference is just from a fund economics perspective. Our investments do not make sense to us unless they're $1 billion outcomes. That's just how economics works for all these things. So the opportunity has to have enough space where somebody can create 100 million revenue, 200 million, $200 million revenue opportunity, right? And if that is possible, then it's a company worth looking at. So very critical to impress that there is that scope. So there's then two ways to do it, right? So a lot of founders typically go the top-down approach, right? Saying, okay, there's these research articles that say, okay, the food delivery market is this big, and we're in the food delivery market, so we can take typically a share of it. But ideally, at least at this stage, I don't find that to be the best way to show, right? Because that number always shows the current spend in the particular market you're targeting, right? Which is not necessarily relevant to the market you may be targeting. I find the bottoms-up approach much better, right? Where you're talking about, okay, these are my personas, these are the kind of people I'm targeting, or the kind of businesses, and that leads to an opportunity of 100,000 businesses, or 10 million people that I can target. And if I'm on average charging them this much, then this is the total revenue potential, right? I mean, obviously, this is a very crude way of doing it, because in proper market sizing, you do a lot more assumptions, you put in kind of curves and stuff. But ideally, this would be a better metric of how much you can make from this business opportunity. So I think that's how it works in my head for the market.
Okay, then I think here we discuss market size. So I think market size is very important for any startup, because if the market size is large, then there is a more room for the startup to expand. So this is from my side.
He also said that there are some rare occasions where the founder back the investors back the founders. They invest based on the founder. They um, trust the founder more than the hypothesis, and in most of the cases the investors are dependent on the how clear and probable the hypothesis is, and the hypothesis must be realistic, plausible, and provable. So they mostly rely on the hypothesis which is credible.
Okay, now should we discuss more or should we further move? Okay, now moving to another video.
Coming from this aspect, because most of our students, I believe, are inexperienced founders, first time founders, how or when should they start looking at to raise money? Because they have been growing up, they've been reading that, a second time founder on an idea level raised millions of dollars, right? Whereas a first time founder, even having proof of concept, product market fit, is still struggling to, gather funds for his subsequent round.
Yep.
So, and you have funded student entrepreneurs, right, at our
Yes.
end. So, what exactly do you see, A, in the student itself, and number two, in their entrepreneurship life cycle, or at their entrepreneur life cycle, the venture life cycle, rather? And at what stage would be the timing would be more or less right, looking at from a student entrepreneur's lens?
Surely. So good question. I think so. To answer the first part of it, first you have to know if you're venture backable or not. Not all startups are meant to, or all businesses are meant to raise venture funding, and that is fine. It's a great business even if you're not valued at $1 million, right? If you're doing $1 million of revenue, if you're able to bring in, crore and a half of salary home in a few years, then it's great, right? Because you're creating wealth for your family, you're creating wealth for your home, you're building your life out, right? Nothing wrong with it. It's a different kind of business from a venture backable business. So ideally, venture backable businesses will grow. Let me put it this way, right? Venture backable businesses are those where the value grows exponentially as a function of the money invested, right? F of x, if that is the value, right, then f of x equals to e raised to x. It has to grow exponentially as a function of the money, where x is the money, right? So if you think about it, then the market has to be very large, right? Again, then only if there is a large opportunity, then it can grow exponentially. The business model has to be very easy and simple to understand, with some sort of, that's why subscription works so frequently, right? Because it's constant cash flows, it's recurring, and it keeps adding and multiplying, right? So does the business model allow for scale? Are there distribution channels which allow for scale? Is it a services business or a product business? If it's product, then it scales much faster because it's easy to replicate and just resell, right? Whereas if it's services, then every time you sell it to somebody, you have to put a lot more effort. So you have to ask those key questions. Am I venture backable, right? Is f of x equals to e raised to x for me, right? Is the value of the company going to be an exponential function of the money invested? Once you have an answer to this, the way to raise is, again, like I said, right? We've invested in student founders, 18-year-old, 17-year-old dropouts. We don't care. Come to us. Everything about entrepreneurship, the power in front of investors. Don't do that, right? take yourself seriously that I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm not a student. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm building a serious product. I know how to sell, right? I know how to build a business, right? You have to fake it a little till you make it. And the second part of it is, I think, again, from a student entrepreneur perspective, what you would look for is clarity of thought. Again, the hypothesis part. And the second is an ability to move really quickly, right? As young founders, you have more energy than anybody else in the room, as definitely more than any of the investors in the room, right? So your turnaround times कि आज बोला इन्वेस्टर ने ऐसा सोचो ये पढ़ो, do this, read on this, can you redo this, rework these numbers, rethink the product roadmap, and the turnaround to be instant, right? Your ability to show that energy, that we are hustlers, that we get it, right? That we move quickly, we take your feedback and we act upon it, right? That we are here to listen, to learn, and to grow and build it out with you, right? I think that is very critical to show, right? If you're going to be slow, कि हाँ I will take 12 months to ship a product, right? We're gonna take 6 months. हमें आता नहीं है तो हमें पढ़ना पड़ेगा, या फिर ये business financials मुझे समझ नहीं आता है, so we don't take a Google mentor. I don't understand the market. You complain instead of making excuses. The answer is okay. If you tell you, I don't think you thought through the competitive space more. 6 hours later, I get a message. Hey, we studied through. This is the information we could pull through. Let me know your thoughts. Right? That hustle, that speed, that energy, that makes a difference as a student entrepreneur, right? Because then we want to back you for the individual you are, the hustler you are, the executor you are, right? More than and this is like a company of ours called RI.ai, right? Student founders when we back. This is the reason. I mean, it's a competitive market, lots of players, but we love the founders, right? And just amazing pace, amazing execution, amazing thought process, and just pick about feedback, right? Constantly asking for feedback. Hey, how can I do this better? How can I improve? And acting upon it most importantly, right? And now they're backed by YC. They're raising another round, so doing phenomenally well, right? So you want to see that improvement.
Okay, now here is the question: when to start raising funds? So, uh, as I say, we should raise funds when we think that we have validated our product in market, or we have a sufficient enough number of products in the market. Then we should try to raise funding.
He also emphasized on the fact that the students who get investment, they should take them seriously, like as an investor, and present them as an investor. Also, they should be like hustler. They should be able to pivot when they are given feedback at the time, and they should be able to move flexibly between the business models and all, and they should show the energy that yes, they are being serious about the startup.
Yes, Arjit, I very much agree with you. It's never too late to start. The earlier you start, it's much more easier. The much more enthusiasm a person has. One of the things he mentioned was it also depends upon type of product, whether it is product or service we are offering. If it's product, the sales value goes much faster than service service which we are giving.
Okay, now we move to another video.
This brings me to my last question, and it's a little bit of the opposite what your the narrative what you're building is about when I get there's a fair probability that, a lot of early stage founders might be passed on by investors. It can be a fair judgment, it can be uninformed judgment from the investor side. And I'm going to talk from a very psychological level, because people take no very, very seriously, especially in India as a country. So what is your advice to student entrepreneurs, of course, which goes beyond that, hey, what, don't lose heart, because being an investor, you will have glory companies, but you'll also have a set of anti-portfolio as well, which have succeeded really well. So, what is the kind of advice you want to give to an entrepreneur, a student entrepreneur, early stage entrepreneur, when he is rejected? Let's keep it as blunt as it possible. In India, people give sugar-coated rejection. In the Western market, they give a two-letter rejection. So what is your advice? How should take people?
This is everybody learns to handle rejections on their own. I presume everybody in the room might have rejected sometime or the other. For example, maybe you've asked somebody out and they've rejected you, or you applied to some universities and they rejected you. The idea here is, first thing to remember is, investors we're in the business of being wrong. 99 out of 100 deals we'll be wrong, and we know it, right? Whether it's a yes or a no doesn't matter, we'll be wrong 99. What matters is the one time we are right, we have to be phenomenally right. The one time we find an Airbnb, the one time we find a Stripe, right, we double down on it, triple down on it, so that we are phenomenally right, and that makes up for all our mistakes. So don't take the sign of an investor saying no necessarily as, okay, this business may not work, right? Because that investor may just be wrong, like Omkar said, right? Maybe it's an uneducated past, or a misunderstood past. It is important to remember that while raising, it's not about how many no's you get. It's about, again, getting that one yes. Omkar, for example, might have pitched to quite a few investors, right, for approaching 100x. But what mattered is that 100x said yes. And one yes makes a difference, because it's a lead investor. It's somebody who believes in you, who helps you build a story around the opportunity and helps you build around and close your fund. So it's about finding that one believer. And there are like कितने सारे angel investors हैं in India, कितने सारे funds हैं in India, right? I mean, if you search angel investor on LinkedIn and put the filter in there, there's almost 6,000, 7,000 people with angel investors, and that's not even everybody. Your friends, just one believer is what is important. To handle, and this can be very hard, as you may find it surprising that sometimes founders also say no to investors. And we also have a tough time handling that. So the idea is, एक नहीं तो दूसरा, दूसरा नहीं तो तीसरा नहीं तो चौथा. I have to do my work. If I get bogged down by the no, then anyway the company is dead. But if I keep working, I mean, I maybe this just feels like hollow advice, but you have to keep pushing on. Obviously, doesn't mean you sacrifice your mental health on it, or if at any point in time you start losing conviction doesn't mean you keep pushing on something you don't even believe in. You have to know when to fold your cards. There's nothing wrong with folding your cards. Like saying, okay, this is not something I want to work on or doing. Important to take care of your health first. I would rather the company die than the founder die. And that's how I think. But I hope that helps.
Perfect. I think this is very informational. This is very enlightening. I'm pretty sure that all the students who have read the case, who have understood the investment thesis of 100x VC, are now hearing from you firsthand about the challenges of an entrepreneur, of an investor, about how do you deal with rejection, how do you build a scalable business, how do you build more or less an investable business. I'm sure that you have inspired a lot. So thank you so much for your time. And I am pretty sure that a lot of these guys listening across India, Africa, Latin America are going to be pouring in their business ideas to 100x, which I hope that 100x will be able to do.
Right. That is where you reach out.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, for this handling rejection from investors, uh, we can say that one founder of any startup should have some natures on his behavior, like he should be persistent about his idea to 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 move to move forward, and and it should a view of learning opportunity and seeking constructive feedback, and it should define their pitch or business model. So like this, and discuss.
I think just one line from him summarizes everything, that no matter how many no's we get, there's just need for this one yes that we need. So I think he just tells about dealing with all the rejection during funding, uh, in belief that you only need one of the people to believe in your venture.
I would like to add, since we are doing entrepreneur or something like that, it is a red road which is least taken. So we should, so rejection is a part of that. So we should stay resilient and seek feedback from, even if we are getting rejection, we should seek feedback. What can we refine in our pitch? What adaptability we have to do, and to do it again and again, knock the doors again. There will be, as Manish already said, that there is only one yes we want. So we should be hopefully for that.
I think we should also think about the investors' perspective, that out of many brands, there are only very few brands which actually make a very good business. So yeah, eventually, to most of the business, they are gonna say no. So R could be one of them. So it's quite
I
possible.
agree. I agree.
Yeah, it's a quite possibility that we are gonna be on that side. So we should be able to bring up a very good idea, very good business model to be able to get a yes from them. So that clarity should also be there in the mind of the founder and anyone who is trying to set up a business.
Okay, now is there someone who wants to add some points on this?
I think we can conclude the discussion now.
Okay, now it is all about the funding strategy we had discussed today. Okay, thank you everyone.